tea. Ever wonder what your great-great-great-grandparents did for a living? Chances are, it wasn't a 9-to-5 office job. History is filled with bizarre, fascinating, and sometimes downright gross professions that have completely vanished. These aren't just quirky footnotes. They were essential parts of society, filled by real people every single day. Today, we're diving deep into the weird world of work from centuries past. We'll uncover the jobs that time forgot, from positions of surprising power to tasks so foul you won't believe anyone was paid to do them. So, grab your historical hard hat, because we're about to explore 5 of the strangest jobs that no longer exist. Let us start with a job that sounds absolutely repulsive, but was actually one of the most sought-after positions in the entire kingdom: the groom of the stool. Now, hold on, I know what you're thinking. And yes, the name is quite literal. This person's primary duty was to assist the monarch, specifically the King of England, with their, shall we say, bathroom needs. They were responsible for monitoring the king's bowel movements, which was considered a vital way to check on his health. They would carry around a portable toilet, known as a closed stool, complete with water, towels, and a wash bowl. But here's the twist. Because they had such intimate and private access to the king, the groom of the stool became one of his closest and most trusted confidants. Think about it. While everyone else had to schedule formal audiences, this person was with the king during his most unguarded moments. They heard state secrets, private worries, and unfiltered thoughts. This proximity gave them immense influence. They weren't just a royal bathroom attendant. They were a de facto private secretary, a trusted advisor, and a powerful figure at court. Grooms of the stool were often knights or sons of noblemen, and the position was a stepping stone to incredible wealth and power. They controlled who got to see the king, managed his personal finances, and often ended up with titles, lands, and fortunes. It was the ultimate example of turning a dirty job into a golden opportunity. So, next time you complain about your job, just remember, at least you don't have to report on your boss's digestion to the royal court. From the halls of royal power, let's journey to a much darker and more mysterious profession: the Sin Eater. Imagine a loved one has just passed away. In an age of deep religious superstition, the biggest fear was that their soul, burdened by unconfessed sins, wouldn't be able to enter heaven. That's where the Sin Eater came in. This practice, found mostly in parts of England, Scotland, and Wales, involved a ritual that was both fascinating and macabre. The Sin Eater, usually a poor and marginalized person, would be summoned to the home of the deceased. A loaf of bread and a bowl of ale or beer would be placed on the chest of the corpse. The Sin Eater would then recite an incantation, eat the bread, and drink the ale. The belief was that in consuming this ritual meal, they were literally absorbing all the sins of the departed soul. The bread and ale acted as a spiritual sponge. By taking on this burden themselves, they cleansed the deceased, allowing their soul to find peace and ascend to the afterlife. It was a vital spiritual service for the community, but the person who performed it was utterly shunned. They were seen as a living vessel of all the sins they had consumed. People would avoid them, fear them, and treat them as outcasts. They lived on the fringes of society, paid a pittance for their soul-damaging work. It was a profound sacrifice, taking on the spiritual filth of a community so that others could rest in peace. The last known Sin Eater was recorded as late as the early 1900s, a haunting reminder of a time when faith and fear walked hand in hand. Now, for a job that was less about the soul and more about the daily grind. Before smartphones, before even cheap alarm clocks, how did people in booming industrial towns wake up on time for their grueling factory shifts? The answer was a human alarm clock, known as a knocker-up. This was an absolutely essential service during the Industrial Revolution. Men and women would walk the dark, cobblestone streets in the early hours before dawn, their job being to rouse the sleeping workers. They had their own unique tools of the trade. Some used a long, lightweight pole, often made of bamboo, to tap on the windows of the upper floors. Others used a soft hammer or a truncheon to rap on the front doors. One of the more interesting methods involved a pea shooter. A skilled knocker-up could accurately fire a dried pea at a specific window pane to create a sharp, distinct noise that would wake the person inside. They were persistent. They would not leave a client's house until they were sure the person was awake and out of bed. often waiting for a light to appear or a sign from the window. They were paid a few pence a week by the factory workers themselves to ensure they didn't get fined or fired for being late. The profession thrived for over a century, a testament to human ingenuity in a world without modern technology. Tony began to fade out in the 1940s and 50s as alarm clocks finally became affordable and reliable for the average household. If you thought the groom of the stool had a smelly job, you haven't heard about the gong farmer. This is, without a doubt, one of the most disgusting and dangerous jobs in all of history. The name is a bit misleading. Gong was an Old English word for dung or excrement, and a farmer in this context meant someone who harvests or removes something. So, a gong farmer was someone who emptied privies, cesspits, and latrines. During the Tudor and medieval periods, before modern sewage systems, all human waste from a castle, a manor, or a town would collect in large pits. When these pits became full, it was the gong farmer's job to clean them out, and they could only work at night. By law, this foul work had to be done between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. to spare the public from the horrific stench. A team of gong farmers would descend into the pit with buckets and shovels and manually scoop out the waste, which was known as night soil. It was back-breaking, stomach-churning labor, but the smell was the least of their worries. The pits were filled with toxic fumes like methane and ammonia, and workers could suffocate and die if they weren't careful. There was also the constant risk of the cesspit walls collapsing, burying them alive in filth. Despite the danger and the social stigma, it paid surprisingly well because, let's be honest, who else would do it? The collected waste was then carted out of the city and sold to actual farmers as fertilizer, completing a rather unpleasant but necessary cycle. So there you have it, from the surprisingly prestigious groom of the stool, to the reviled sin-eater, the essential knocker-up, and the dangerously disgusting gong farmer. These jobs paint a vivid picture of a world that was radically different from our own. They show us how societies solved problems with the tools and beliefs they had at the time, leading to professions that seem utterly alien to us today. It's a powerful reminder of how much the world of work has changed, and how technology, science, and social norms have reshaped our lives in ways we often take for granted. Who knows what jobs exist today that will seem just as strange to people a few hundred years from now? Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through history's weirdest career paths. If you found this fascinating, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the strange and forgotten corners of the past. Let me know in the comments which of these jobs you found the most bizarre, or if you know of any others we should cover. Until next time, stay curious.